After hundreds of conversations with business owners this year, the lessons that stayed with me weren't about money or tactics or growth hacks. They were about patience, consistency, relationships, and the quiet discipline it takes to keep going when no one's watching. And Christmas felt like the right moment to pause and share what really stood out. So in today's episode, we're going to have a reflection on my show, Business Growth Talks, at this key point, which is December the 15th is when this is going to be released. So Christmas is one of those times where noise drops and the perspective creeps back in. So what I mean by that is that we start winding down. It doesn't mean we're finished, but it means that often when you get to this Christmas period, people reflect on where they've been, what they've done, and how they've done it. It's often very important to them as well. For me, this year wasn't about hacks or shortcuts. It was about building patterns and building important processes in my business and in my show to be able to get the most out of 2025. And with all of these conversations I've had, the same truths keep on showing up. They show up quietly but consistently. So I'm going to go through this episode, different lessons that I've learned, and referring to some of the episodes that I had those conversations with, and some of the solo episodes as well. But I think it's a really nice time, and I would encourage you to do this also, is to stop, think, and just reflect on what type of year you've had and whether you think it was a good year, a bad year, or maybe some things that you can develop into 2025. Imagine this: you have a great business, strong results, and a message worth sharing, but most people outside your network still have no idea who you are. Growth slows when visibility stops. Podcast guesting solves that. Instead of chasing leads or interrupting people with ads, you speak directly to audiences who are already interested in your topic. They share your story, your approach, and your value you deliver. Trust is built before the first conversation. At Podcast Introduction, we help business owners get booked on the right shows. We research targeted podcasts, pitch you on your behalf, and position you as the expert. So every interview becomes a growth asset that drives leads and authority. If you want more visibility, more credibility, and more conversations with the right clients, podcast guesting is a powerful lever for you. Visit podcastintroduction.com and start expanding your reach today. A really good technique is going in and thinking about what you want to continue doing, what you want to stop doing, and what you want to pause doing. So just have a think about that when we're at the end of this show, and just maybe put in the comments below what are the things that you're going to stop, start, and continue. Right, lesson 1. Growth rarely comes from one big move. Almost every guest who grew sustainably talked about small, repeatable actions. They talked about systems beating motivation. And I think something I want to emphasize today, which Christine Campbell Rappin and Kyle Millay talked about, was that systems are an incredible way of being able to grow your business. It starts making them predictable, and that profit journey that you want, you can understand what they're doing. So document your job roles, document your processes. Even if you are a small team, or even if you're a solopreneur, think about documenting and thinking about how those systems are put in place, so that if you are hiring or if you are looking to build a business, you've got all of those systems in place, so everyone is clear what the roles are that is important. The most guests didn't feel busy, but they felt intentional. And I think that's one of the key things on all those conversations. The people who make the best are those people that are intentional what they do with every month, every quarter, every half year, every day, every week. And sometimes growth looks boring on the outside, but maybe calm inside. So it's really important for you to just think about the boring things and making them into systems and processes that you can do. Many of my guests describe success not with drama, just steady, controlled, and intentional. Christine Campbell Rappin is one of those coaches that is really able to go in deep with you and understand how you need to grow your business, She's a fantastic coach, and I would definitely endorse her as someone that I would want you to be able to contact. So go listen to that episode, listen to what she talked about and what she shared about growth. And then if you want to reach out to her, the details are in the show notes. Lesson 2, your story is not your baggage, it's your leverage. One of the things that was super interesting was this whole area of storytelling. We do this a lot at podcast introduction, is talk about storytelling and how being a podcast guest and having stories to be able to tell are what's going to resonate with the audience, connect with the audience emotionally. So guests who lent into their background created trust faster. Some people think that career pivots or changing a business is a weakness. This is only proving that you are able to be adaptable and agile. The strongest brands in 2025 were built on honesty, not this fluff, not this polish that people think they're going to be able to do. And in an episode I had with Perlo, he talked about his story from a sportscaster into a video business entrepreneur. And it was fascinating hearing that those different stages that he went through, the way that he was able to be in one particular area, but take learnings from being a sportscaster and journalist into his business, into his video business. And he talked on how he creates video is based around stories. So I want you to be able to think when you're talking to people, maybe you're a guesting on people's shows, is thinking about the journey that you've been on and how that differentiates you in the market. You shouldn't hide those experiences that you've had, good, bad, or indifferent. These are key things that have made you the person you are. You might regret some. One of my questions on my show is any regrets? And I think actually regretting shows some sort of honesty and some sort of like accountability. So do think about those stories that have built you to this point and embrace them. They're what makes you different from everyone else. So just think about the stories that make up you. Lesson 3, discipline shows up long before results do. I've spoken to founders, investors, creatives, and they all say all the same thing. Consistency matters more than confidence. Momentum came after routine, not before it. The best operators respected the process even when results were quiet. So having these conversations about discipline and consistency is just so important. And doing things quietly and doing things that are important. You don't need to necessarily put a LinkedIn post about it. You don't need to put a YouTube video out about it. You don't need to put a TikTok video out about it. But doing what's important consistently and with discipline is what's going to build your business on a long-term basis. Yes, we all like celebrate. One of the issues I have is celebrating wins. And this is something that my wife tells me that I should be more enjoy those wins and not be cutting them short and moving on to the next thing. But doing things consistently and keep on building on those things are things that are going to make the difference. I put out a solo episode a few months ago that consistency beats motivation. Most people think that they need to be motivated to be successful. But what I found and what I find, and this is why the episode came out, was that being consistent, turning up every day. I did another episode about turning up every day and being able to work on your business, with your business, at your business is what's going to be able to grow you in 2026. So do think about discipline and consistency as the key cornerstones of how you're going to grow your business and grow it successfully. Lesson 4, relationships are so important. Relationships can be important for a number of reasons. Introductions, partnerships, referrals, conversations with mentors or coaches for growth. The biggest wins rarely came from cold tactics. Long-term relationships create short-term opportunities. And I had two great guests, Tom Friedman and Joe Mindak. Go and check them out. where they talked about relationships being so important. Tom has been able to create a whole business around creating referral partners, a limited number of referral partners, and trading and referrals between them, and being thoughtful about it and being mindful about what the person needs and thinking about who you've got in your network that can help them. That's a great episode. I absolutely love Tom. And the other one I want to mention is Joe Mindak, who runs the Connective Networking Group. Joe built this group with the idea of building relationships for long-term growth. Just think about all those opportunities that you have to speak to people, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face. And think about building those relationships, not just immediately what you can get out of those relationships, but helping the other person. One of the fastest ways of being able to build trust is by being able to help, support, create referrals or partnerships or introductions for other people, because they feel that you are thoughtful and thinking about them. That then motivates them to be able to help you. So don't go into all of these relationships with thinking about how am I going to get something from this relationship. That is not the best way of building relationships. Just think about like dating. Like relationships, business relationships are very much like dating. You don't go into the first date and go down on one knee and say, will you marry me? It takes time. It takes conversations. It needs to build trust to be able to successfully have business relationships that might create partnerships, businesses, introductions, or referrals, or even coaching. So just think about that. It is one of the things that for 2025, I was massively focused on building good, solid relationships to be able to, for 2026, to be able to grow my business. So really think about the importance of relationships. Number 5, lesson 5, leadership is learning to sit with uncertainty. The strongest leaders didn't rush their decisions. They created systems that could handle ambiguity. Calm leadership beats reactive leadership in every case. Control came with clarity, not with certainty. Leadership is one of the most important aspects if you are a business owner. If you are a solopreneur, or if you run a business of 5, 50, 500, 5,000, 50,000. Leadership is the cornerstone of how you are going to grow your business, whether that is building with people in your team or whether that's thinking about being able to create relationships. I did a great, unique episode with Cogent Analytics and Rob Brayman and his team. In that, we talked about leadership, how they conduct themselves in leadership with their clients. They are a consultancy company, like a management consultancy company, but they have a massive difference. They care and they show up with leadership for their team, for their employees, but also for their clients as well. And so don't rush those decisions. Just think about the nuances that are there, but make decisive decisions. Decisive decisions are better than no decisions at all. So it's super important that you think about how you're leading your team, your clients, and your business. And just to go back to that episode with Cogent Analytics, it was brilliant. We had 3 of the leadership team on there. It was such an enjoyable experience to do a different type of podcast. And it's definitely something that was an incredibly enjoyable, powerful. I found it a great insights that they had. Rob Brayman, I've had on before, and I absolutely loved his episode that we had. You can check that. I think that was last year, 2024. Do check that out, either the Rob Brayman episode or the Cogent Analytics one. But just think about how you're leading, what you're doing, how you're able to build that strength and that decisiveness is so important when it comes to leadership. Lesson 6, energy was the real constraint. Something that kept on coming up this year was burnout. And it's been a reoccurring theme, even with high performers. The guests who scale best protected their time and energy. Rest wasn't framed as laziness, it was framed as strategy. Sustainable businesses were built by humans who pace themselves. An episode with Robert Matzin talked about this issue of burnout. And it's something that I think business owners need to think about, need to face up to, that yes, you need to hustle. Yes, you need to work hard, but you need to make sure you're getting good sleep, that you're exercising, that you're meditating, that you're spending time with friends and family. Whatever those things are that give you energy, you need to build into your life. Just because somebody works all the day, all the night, and just hustles often means that at some stage they will be affected by burnout. Most of the grounded guests that I had spoke about slowing down without any guilt. So just think about this over the Christmas period. This is something that I'm thinking about, is having some downtime, spending some time with my loved ones, and being able to think about those important things and finding time to rest, recover. Think about an athlete. An athlete has to perform at their very best at key moments in their sport. So a footballer, soccer player, they need to be able to perform for 90 minutes and be exceptional at what they do. But what their coaches and what their support staff say, that sleep, rest is important as well to perform at the highest level. So just think about that. And it's not laziness. It's being able to think about strategically how you're going to be most effective throughout the day, month, year. So just think about that. And it is so important. Burnout is a massive issue. And it's something that most people will affect to an extent on what that feels like and what that is. So just think about it, and just think about having some downtime, especially with friends and family. But it's important for sleep. It's important for exercise, meditation, whatever your thing is that de-stresses you. Think about doing that and building that into your life. And lesson 7, talking about being truthful with yourself. Christmas is a great period to be able to think about how you've been this year, what you've done, have a reflection period. So when the calendar quietens, the business gets louder. You can feel what's working and what's draining you. What you're proud of becomes much clearer, and what you've tolerated becomes harder to ignore. Christmas period, I think most of my guests would support, is a period for a mirror. It's a time for honesty, how your year's gone, what your performance was like, all those things that are important to you: family, friends, work, business, exercise, meditation. You should be thinking honestly how you've done this year. And it's a great period to be able to do that reflection. So I would very much encourage you to think about how you've performed this year in all aspects of your life, not just a revenue profitability level. It's important, of course it is, but also think about those areas of your life which make life meaningful, purposeful, and just think about that. So 2025 wasn't about chasing more. It was about building things that lasted. I've built businesses, I've built my show, I've built the YouTube channel, and I'm incredibly proud of what I've done. The guests that I had on weren't talking about winning. They were talking about growth and that growth mindset. So just think about, remind yourself about growth. It isn't always visible. It's about some things that are happening behind the scenes. So it's not all about Instagram or LinkedIn posting with boasting. Just think about those quiet things that you've done which have helped grow your business. They are the lessons that I've had this year with the guests of 2025. As we wrap up, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for listening and watching and being part of these conversations throughout the years. If there's one thing that this year reinforced to me, is that real business growth sometimes happens quietly through consistency, relationship building, and showing up even when it's uncomfortable. Over Christmas, I'd encourage you to give yourself permission to slow down, to notice what you're proud of, and to be honest about what you don't want to carry forward. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who's building something of their own and could do with a quieter moment of reflection. Hit me in the comments if there's anything that you've learned this year that you would like to share with me and my audience. If there's enough of them, I'll do an episode on what your thoughts are on your reflection periods. What are the lessons that you've learned this year? And if you haven't already subscribed to Business Growth Talks, make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. It genuinely helps the show reach more people who need these types of conversations. I'll be back soon with some more conversations about growing businesses and some more solo episodes talking about business growth. So enjoy this period, this break. Look after yourselves. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and just think about that reflection time that you've had when you're just think about reflecting on the time that you've used in 2025, and this will help you grow in 2026. Thanks a lot.